Hi.
Hello, what's up?
What's going on, man?
Good.
Chilling, chilling.
Chilling, good.
Who are you?
The sister.
B. That's what's up. That's what's up, man. Everybody, my nine family. This is Erica Wilson, formerly known as Erica Hubbard,
Right,
E Hub,
right.
all the
Ehud.
things. This is my sister. If you can't tell by the visual, you'll probably tell as we get into this conversation. But thank you for agreeing to sit down with me. I know we actually tried to do this a long time ago,
Yes.
and we did it, and I don't think the format was really what I was trying to do.
Yeah.
So now we got these non-conversations out here trying to inspire people. So the thing about the non-conversations, I know you've seen a few of them, is
All of
all of them. There you go. There you go. Sister.
them.
You've seen all of them. And there is really no context, right? Like, we're going to talk about whatever we feel like talking about. And
Okay.
so, but the goal is that in something that we speak about, something that we share, we're imparting something with someone that will encourage them wherever they are and wherever they resonate with what we're discussing. So
Okay.
I think a good place to start, for me at least with you, is um, inspiration and motivation. Um, the cool thing about this dynamic of us sitting down to talk is we both come from the same household,
Right.
but um, two different people, right, and have gone on to do separate things and things like that. So the thing that I want you to maybe share with us is, or share with the people, is what are some things that, before we get into what you do, what are some things that have motivated you, inspired you to kind of take the steps that you've taken in your career?
Yeah, so that's a really, really good question. Because I think I've reflected on this a few times.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how did I get here and where I am? And so the first thing I'll say is like living up, growing up the way that we did. And you hear a lot of people say this all the time. You really don't know until you see something different, like your environment, what you really were in. So growing up in inner city St. Louis, we thought we were doing okay until we saw something different, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, I think a lot of my motivation has come from experiences. So once you see something, then you
Yeah.
know it to be different and something else that you can achieve. And so, yeah, growing up, being raised by a single mom, seeing her struggle, not being able to get things that you see other kids get, or you have your needs, but those wants and those desires, and not being able to just kind of move and do whatever you want. Having that village concept where you got uncles and aunts pinch it in, and they have their own family dynamics. It's like, in my mind, I'm like, man, I want something different. Not that
Mm-hmm.
it was bad, but I wanted to be able to live comfortably, be able to help people, and not struggle, right?
Mm-hmm.
And not feel like, like the concept of paycheck to paycheck, and just always not knowing where things were going to come from. So
Yeah.
that was part of it. And then I think, we had a lot of fun. I think looking back on just you and I
Yeah.
being the closest in age with siblings, we grew up kind of in this. It felt at the time like it was contentious, like, man, why don't he, little brother, fall back? But
Mm-hmm.
it all transformed into what it needed to be, right?
Yeah.
In terms of even you being a motivator, right? Like, I felt like even growing up with you, like your mindset on life was like you were in your own world. Like
Mm-hmm.
you kind of had a way of blocking things out that were reality. And so you found your own like happiness through that. So that was a motivator as well. And then lastly, our grandparents, like,
Mm.
I mean, knowing their stories, where they came from. I think about, like, just for example, our maternal grandmother, like the age that a lot of them migrated
Yeah.
from Mississippi. Like when I was in my teens, I would have never taken
Right.
a leap like that. So
Right.
you think about many people migrating from the South, like as 16, 17, 18-year-olds coming here to want something different. Like
Yeah.
that's huge.
Yeah.
And both of our sets of grandparents, I think we have that commonality. So yeah, I think seeing it, and that kind of what we'll get into that later, is a big part of what you feel like you can do and what you want to do when you see something different.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's good. That's good. I think you mentioned like us just the growing up thing. I think from a motivational standpoint, I think sometimes you don't know what you're doing and how that's going to impact
Yeah.
or how things will turn out. I think it was very much so for me similar, right? Like you think about the things that you admired or that you looked up to or that you desire. Like you say, you see things and you feel like, okay, there's better out in the world, but how do I achieve it? How do I go about it? And then coming to the realization that like, oh, I can actually do things that I like to do
Right.
and establish a life for myself and things like that. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. So obviously you decided to go into a specific direction, which has led you into many things. So let's start there. Like what is it that you do
Mm-hmm.
and how did you get there? What was the journey?
So I work in the field of cybersecurity and technology, and I actually didn't know it to be a career path when I was coming up. So I was always, really good student. Things came to me naturally, just blessed with natural talents and gifts. But math was my thing. Like math, love math, wanted people to love it, understood it, wanted to tutor people. So I had this desire around solving problems.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of really how it started. And so it wasn't until my senior year of high school that I had a coding class.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people, even in high school, didn't even really know back then what coding was and that it was an option. But I was fortunate to be able to be in honors math classes. And I signed up for this class and I was like, coding, like, what is this thing? Like, and so it piqued my interest again, something I didn't know. And once I realized like there was a career path in computer science and
Mm-hmm.
technology, I thought I would be good at it, so I thought I'd try it. So I decided to major in it. Had much more math classes to go along with it, and it really was a perfect fit.
Yeah.
It was a perfect fit. So right now, what I do is I lead a cybersecurity team. So cybersecurity is all about protecting information, protecting assets, protecting companies' reputations because of the technology that can be used
Yeah.
to destroy it or take advantage of it. And so I've been in cyber for about 20 years,
Mm-hmm.
technology as a whole for about 25 years.
Okay. Okay. So that's interesting in itself. I think the thing that I would love for you to talk about a little bit that I've heard you talk about a little bit before, but this space that you're in, that you have made a career in, that you are now sort of an advocate for young women, children to get into. It's not a space that we normally see people that look like you in. So talk about that, right? Like because I'm sure that there are many people, not necessarily in cybersecurity, but that are in different fields where they are the the person or one
Yeah.
of very few who are excelling. And as you reach and climb that ladder, it starts to get more like, is anybody?
Lonely.
Yeah, a little bit more
Yeah.
lonely.
Yeah.
So talk about that. Any struggles that have come along with that? How you've overcome and become successful within those constraints.
Yeah. So I'll start with it actually started in college. Looking back on it, so I would go to, my undergraduate classes. I'd be either the only woman,
Hmm.
the only black person, or just I always was the one, right? Either
Yeah.
black woman or only woman, or maybe there'd be one or two other women. So a very male dominated industry anyway. And I'm thankful for being in that space because it taught me how to interact with white men, like to be very honest,
Hmm.
how to work on a team. You got team projects and things like that. And so when I got into my professional life, it was challenging because I felt like I stood out and I felt like, do I need to conform? So just on a very practical level, I kind of evolved into this girly girl a little bit over time. But for a long time, I was, kind of a tomboy growing up with two brothers.
Mm-hmm.
And I would come to work and not want to stand out. So I would, they wore their khakis and their polos. So I would buy, my slacks and try to and then after a while, I was like, that's not me.
Yeah.
So I'm going to wear my bold prints. I'm going to wear what I want to wear because I even felt comfortable in that sense. But it was a while that I didn't want to stand out. And so I found myself, being quiet and not speaking up because I didn't want to appear as just, being that person that was different. And it took, another woman actually that I saw, another African American woman who was in leadership, and she was like the only one to just talk to me about, you got to be comfortable with who you are,
Yeah.
and other people will get there or they won't.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, some of the challenges of, being basically questioned on my abilities. And so, just to be very frank, right, to be in this space, like for a long time, experience for other people was enough,
Yeah.
right? But for me, it's like had the bachelor's degree, got the master's degree, got the certifications and the experience. So all of those things together. And when people would go and, like, for lack of a better term, Google me, it's like, oh, she is, right? And
Yeah.
so having to have all of that
Yeah.
sometimes is just you get tired. Like, it's
Mm-hmm.
like, why do I need all of these things when it becomes for others, like who or who just gives you a shot, who gives
Mm-hmm.
you a chance to prove yourself. And so after so many years of that, I found myself feeling like, okay, instead of taking on the negative side and thinking like this is horrible, I'm never going to be this or I'm never going to achieve, what can I do?
Mm-hmm.
What can I do to get more people like me, women, people of color, in the room?
Mm-hmm.
Because I know this is an amazing career field. Very people do, very well financially and stable. So what can I do to promote it so people even know that it exists? Because a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people don't know it because they don't see people. And so I had this drive to just start building a little network of women in IT, getting to know other women as I worked in organizations, informally, sometimes formally mentoring them to try to give them the hope of it's possible to
Right. Right.
grow.
Right.
And that was even for, very honest, for white women as well, right? A lot of women in this field have not been able to propel just because they don't know what to do, how to engage, and things like that. So the work that I do now is trying to be, even if I am the only person in the room, a voice for the people who aren't in the room.
That's good. That's
Yeah.
good. I think recently I don't know how old this clip was. I saw a clip from the prophet Jay-Z where he was talking about how he shows up as himself
Mm-hmm.
in every room that he walks in. He's not walking in, he's not shucking and jiving with people like I'm bringing something to the table. I have ideas. I have a plan.
Yep.
I have a team. And so I don't need to come in and talk like you in order for you to understand that, what you're talking about and what you're trying to accomplish and what I'm talking about and trying to accomplish are the same.
Right.
And so it's good that you say that you're a voice for the people, because I think young women of all races, backgrounds, ethnicities can see someone like you, and we could talk about some of the things that you're doing outside of the office, right? Like they can see you on a platform full of men talking about cybersecurity, talking about careers in cybersecurity, and you can be the person that they say, okay, now I can see myself
Yeah.
in this space. So let's talk about that, because obviously you talked about in the office, and your success in your career has now garnered individuals, companies reaching out to you, wanting you to speak about not just being a Black woman in cybersecurity, but talk about cybersecurity as they would any of these other professionals that they normally would reach out to. And so I've seen a few. I haven't been able to attend any. We live in different cities, but I see some of the pictures that you send and some of the videos, and it's like 4 men and you. right, on all of these panels. And so talk about that, right? Because it's different being in the office and you're influencing for a meeting or for a project or to get things done. But now you're speaking to an audience of people, maybe some in the building, some online. Um, how do you make sure that in a conversation that is not based around that specific dynamic, that you are still somehow generating and representing that so that people can feel that?
Yeah, so it's exactly what we said, being yourself, being
Mm,
confident in what you know, interjecting and speaking up.
mm-hmm,
The things that I did 20 years ago in my career, that kind of probably held me back, just not holding back, right? I know what I know because I've lived the same
mm-hmm,
experiences, I've done things. And so just being comfortable in that. And like you said, when you show up as yourself and you know what you're talking about, it's
mm-hmm,
easy. You
mm-hmm,
just show up and you be you. And
mm-hmm.
so I would just say, some of the platforms that I've been on, it still blows my mind,
Yeah.
right? MIT, reputable college. I mean, most people that teach there have to have PhDs. They asked me to be a guest professor and provide some content for their students. Um, National conferences are calling, like wanting to talk to me or hear my thoughts about things. And it is amazing because after a while, it's like it's validation, but it's not like I was seeking it, right? It's
Yeah.
validation that yeah, you have the same credentials, credibility, and desires to grow and influence as others. And it's just very rewarding. It's very rewarding. So, I really just try to be myself and
Yeah.
share what I've learned and give that in hopes that someone will see that, oh yeah, there's black women in this field, there's women that are leading and doing things in this field,
Yeah.
and just try to encourage them to come take a look and try it out.
Yeah. What advice do you have for individuals who have tried to do that? But they've hit a roadblock. Maybe they haven't figured out how to show up as themselves, or they have showed up as themselves, and the company they work for, the group that they are a part of, is just not accepting of who they are,
Yeah.
right? Love their ideas, love what they bring to the table, but don't really accept who they are. What would advice would you give someone who's in that space dealing with that?
So there's two things that come to mind for me with that. The first is seeing if you can identify someone in the company that can help you navigate through the obstacles and the challenges, because some companies and some leaders still don't get it.
Mm-hmm.
And I say that, so one example I'll share, in the last 3 roles that I've had, all different organizations, I was the first Black vice president in the company. And it sounds like, oh my gosh, that's an amazing thing to be
Mm-hmm.
excited about. But it's like you're talking about maybe a 10 or 12-year time frame that we're still having firsts.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not good.
Yeah.
And when you feel like people aren't hearing you or you not getting it, I mean, you can start with a conversation. That's
Mm-hmm.
usually what it is. Like, I've had to have real conversations with people about my hair, right? You change your hair, you change it again. Yes, and it's probably going to change next week. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I just say, yeah, that's what we do. That's how I am, right?
Yeah.
Just things that seem simple, that people make a big deal out of, that it really shouldn't be. So
Right.
start with a conversation is number one. And number two is, if it doesn't work, then it's like finding the company that does get it and does
Mm-hmm.
accept you. And I've had to make shifts in my career at times because of that. It's like, okay, this, I've reached my plateau, or I've done my time here, right? I've done what I came and did what I was supposed to do, and now it's time to move on,
Mm-hmm.
and being comfortable with that decision.
Okay. No, that's good. That's good. That's good. All right. So ambitious, successful, talented, creative, all the things have helped you to get in this space. Let's talk about little,
Mhm.
little Erica, right? Like, obviously, you mentioned like you didn't see a career, even when you were introduced to it, you didn't see a career necessarily forming from the coding situation or the cybersecurity. Um, what do you remember 5, 6, 7 years old about yourself? What did you like? What did you think you were wanting to do? And how far away from what you ended up doing was it? And then what parts of that little Erica still show up today?
So when I was younger, and I was told this, but even, kind of thinking it back, it was true. I was a serious child,
Mm-hmm.
very focused, checklist, got things done, made sure, like, facts.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I was a very kind of serious,
Mm-hmm.
focused person at a young age. And I originally wanted to be a teacher. I wanted to be a math teacher. And that probably could have been a successful career, but I still see all of that today.
Mm-hmm.
So I've gone through several stints of adjunct teaching
Mm-hmm.
because I have that passion of wanting people to learn. So I've taught, computer science courses, math courses, cybersecurity courses,
Yeah.
and even that teaching and wanting people to get it's still there,
Yeah.
right? And even now, right, with my child, she brings homework home. I'm like, okay, let's come on, we finna work through this together,
Yeah.
because that's something that is still there. I was also very observant
Mm.
as a child, so the quietness wasn't because I didn't want to engage. I just was watching everything.
Mm.
And to this day, I'm still the same way. I can read a room, I can pick up on nonverbals, I can just sense when I walk in what I'm walking into. And
Mm.
that has become one of my best assets,
Mm.
to know how a person is feeling or might be receiving or receptive of me, how I might need to transition my approach in the moment, because
Mm-hmm.
I'm picking up on all of that.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, I love sports. I think both of my brothers influenced that. And it made it very easy for me to be in this field because I grew up in the house with two brothers.
Yeah.
So I got things like, for example, I could do the small talk about basketball. I could do the small talk with men I work with about football,
Mm-hmm.
because it was around me. I was engaged with it,
Mm-hmm.
and I could speak the talk. And so, for when you think about things from a professional setting
Yeah.
perspective, most of the time your successes and influence comes when you can connect with people. You
Yeah.
just on natural things,
Yeah.
not even what you're doing at work, but just as seeing them as a person and things that they enjoy. And so that benefited me. That
Yeah.
benefited me professionally, because I get in the football, the pools, and do all of that kind of stuff because I got it. And so
Yeah.
I think all of that, when you think about growing up and looking back, really influenced where I am today.
Yeah. That's good. That's good. You mentioned in that, you mentioned your daughter.
Yes.
And so you are a wife, you are a mother. And um, the thing that I love about what you just said is that your passion towards wanting to figure things out, wanting to learn, is now something that you can almost impart on to her. And I'm sure you do with other people, but to have like this person that you're
Hmm.
responsible for,
Right.
that you can, everybody learns different and things like that, but you can share maybe tactics, things that how you study, how you break things down, how do you walk through a problem, how do you figure it out on your own, things like that. What has that been like to have the opportunity every day, pretty much,
Right.
to have this person to be able to kind of impart all of that on?
It's actually so amazing,
Yeah.
because first, I think as a parent, you see how much your child is different than you.
Hmm.
And so it forces you to figure out different ways to get the point across,
Yeah.
because we're not made the same. We're not intended to be. And so my daughter, for example, she's very creative. She has the creative mind. She enjoys just being creative, drawing, painting, sewing. Like, that is her. So she's not innately a person that's like, I want to problem solve. She want to create,
Mm-hmm.
right? And
Yep.
so
Yep.
thinking about, I mean, just one example, she likes to listen to music while doing her homework. And that reminds me of somebody. I could
Yes.
never do that. Like, I need to concentrate. I need it to be silent. So just learning how to adjust and what works for her is the
Yeah.
biggest thing. So while I may get it this way, I have to be creative in thinking about how to
Yeah.
make sure things resonate with her. And so yeah, it's again another way that teaching part of me just enjoys working with her as she's learning and growing in
Yeah.
school.
It amazes me sometimes, like to talk to her or to see what she's doing or to hear from you about what she's doing, and to think about like how similar her experience, like just kind of navigating childhood, has been to mine, which is like this. I wasn't an only child, but I spent a large portion of my, childhood, kind of like you said, in my own little world. So having that bubble that she sort of created, but also having you and her father to kind of, when she's ready to come out of that bubble, to kind of like bounce ideas and thoughts and things off of. How has it been having experienced it from a big sister perspective, someone like that who's totally different than
Yeah,
who you were as a
yeah.
child? How has that helped you a little bit, as far as like maybe how to speak that language and to get her to, or you said it forces you to come up with other ways to
Hmm.
communicate things. So how has that experience, or maybe even other experiences with other people that are like that, how's that helped you?
Yeah, it's the aha moment. It's the everybody is not wired the same. And if you really want to have an impact on people, you have to see them as the person they are. You
Mm-hmm.
have to see what works for them, how you, again, we talk about influence and being able to drive change, right?
Mm-hmm.
And make an impressionable mark on their life. Like for her, that's what we're trying to do as her parents. And so it's like, okay, like no two children are the same. Growing up in the same household, things happen and people are different. It's the aha moment. Like, okay, that doesn't work for her, so let's try this. And like even, my husband, her dad, he's very musically inclined, and he's so I see that passion even coming from him. Like
Mm-hmm.
her ability to just to brag on mine for a minute, she learned how to play the keyboard in like 2 lessons, like knew the full scale, could do it so naturally. Learn how to play the drums. Her dad's
Yeah.
a drummer. Like she can keep the beat. She can play a little beat.
Yeah. Keep going. Yeah. Yeah. Keep going. Keep going.
It just comes so naturally. That wasn't me.
Yeah.
But it's
Yeah.
like, okay, she's a learn by watching. And he's the same way. My husband, he's the same way. Show him a video, don't figure it
Gonna do
out.
it.
And
Yeah.
so it just makes it's the aha moment to learn that we're all different. And you just
Yeah.
have to figure out and not force
Mm-hmm.
one model, for parents, like forcing a model on your child that may have worked with one, it's not the same
Yeah.
for everybody.
Yeah. That's good. That's good. That's good. Okay. So another dynamic of that same thing that you just talked about, obviously, growing up in a single parent household, you have created for yourself, or not for yourself, but with the help of your husband, a family unit. Um, you all have things that are similar to a lot of people that have families, right? Like married couple, sort of, I guess you could say, not blended family, but
Yeah,
yeah, blended family.
yeah,
um you have a young child, and you all are trying to create, daily, I would assume, what it is that you want your family dynamic to be. What legacy do you want to leave for your child? um at the end of the day, when your daughter becomes, I'll say Avery, when she becomes an adult, she'll get to decide whatever she wants to do. But at least you all are trying to map out, like, how do we position her, to where whatever it is that she wants to do, that she feels equipped to get out here and to go and to
yeah,
do it. And so, understanding the household that you grew up in, and when I mean, say, when I say that, I mean like the dynamic that you
right.
grew up in, having now have this different dynamic. What was that? What is it like trying to, this thing that you didn't see yourself, trying to create it? What is that like? How do
Yeah.
you how do you do that?
Prayer. You know, I'll just say that I was very cautious about deciding when I wanted to try to have a child for that reason.
Yeah.
Because, not that our childhood was bad, but I wanted to make sure that my child had something different, right? Father, active, present, involved, interested, at seeing her as a person. And so, just to be very transparent, one of the things that attracted me to my husband was that he was a single father raising his own son. And I was just like, man, like, it shouldn't be that way. But when you see that, it's like, that says a lot. It said a lot to me because of, kind of what I experienced with only seeing my dad occasionally, knowing who he was. And even now, right, having a relationship that is, kind of checking in here and there, but not all the time active. So that really, really attracted me to him. But yeah, we met in church, and our foundation with our pastor at the time, we were both, when we met, certainly just taking it in like a sponge, everything that he taught about marriage, about family, about things that you should be working on even before you got married. So, we dated for a while before we made the decision, because he always, Pastor Roach, rest in heaven, he always stressed that this isn't easy. It's not easy. And the things that need to be in place to make it successful take work. And so for us, when we, got married, it's always been at our core to go back to those principles that we were taught through his teaching.
Yeah.
And, we want Avery to know it's possible, right, to have a life where you've got, your family unit, that you vacation together, you have fun together, you sit down and you eat dinner together, right? A lot of things that, some families, it's not important to them, but those things were really important, and we want to be that example for her to see that.
Yeah.
And we're going to support her, whatever it is that she wants to do. We are here. He tells her all the time, if you do what you're supposed to do, and he told little Aaron this all the time, do what you're supposed to do, you can have whatever you want. We'll make it happen. Take care of your chores, do your homework. You want to go shopping for the weekend, then that's what you're gonna do. And so, just teaching her about being responsible, respectful, and seeing, how we work together to make it work is what we want.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. I think it's you hear people talking about generations, generational curses, cycles, whatever it is. But I think the positivity and the message even in that is at some point in her life, whatever she decides, whether it be marriage and children or whatever happens, she's going to have a totally different perspective. This person, again, that you were responsible for, is going to have a totally different perspective, because her launching pad now, because of what your intentionality was, is 100% different than what yours was, and generations behind her the same. So I think when you think of it in that way, and thinking about like how strategic you were with making sure, like, I want to make sure it's the right person. I want to make sure the timing is right. I want to make sure that I'm doing my work on me before I try to do all these different things. And to know that even every day, I'm sure there's lessons to be learned, and you're trying to still figure things out. But to know that intentionality is going to have years and years of impact beyond even you being here.
Things that happen to you in your childhood shape you, whether it's trauma, whatever the case may be, it shapes you into the person you become. And a lot of us spend our adult life trying to figure out why we are how we are. And when you start doing that reflection, whether it's through therapy and that type of thing, you see like, okay, this is what influenced my biases or how I see this or my perspectives on just life in general. So I'm excited that, she has a dad that loves her, that supports her, that treats her like the princess she is. And then she sees how he treats me as his wife, right? Like, so that, like you said, if she aspires to be married, he'll probably never let her date. But if she aspires to be married, like, what a healthy marriage can look like. And like you said,
Yeah.
not that there's not challenges, but if you're committed to being on the same team, you after the same goals, it takes work, but it can work. It really
Yeah.
can.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good. What's something that you can leave with people? I know we talked about a number of things. Talked about family dynamics. We talked about career. The message for non-conversations is now over never, right? And so when you hear that, choosing in spite of, or even with some of the challenges that people have, um, childhood, obstacles, education, financial, whatever it is, like what motivation or message can you give to someone who has hit a roadblock of any sort, and are just looking for motivation, inspiration to take the next step or any step at that matter?
Yeah, so I guess what I say is you're not the first to go through the situation. Um, if you can find the right support, friend group, pastor, therapist, whatever it may be, to help you work through it, that's a big deal. Having that close circle, and then using your story to help someone. At the end of the
Mm,
day, I really feel that all of us have a life lesson, multiple lessons or experiences that can help shape and influence the next person. And so,
that's
not
good.
that you have to publicize everything all the time, but
Yeah.
when you have that discernment of who you're supposed to be connected with to help them, then doing that, that is the greatest reward.
Yeah.
I have some women that behind the scenes have eventually come to tell me, man, I've watched you, I admire you, that I would have never thought were watching me
Hmm.
or that were paying attention. Um, and there's a young lady that I know, who I helped get an opportunity to get into this field, who is doing amazing things, making a great life for herself. And it's just like, yeah, thanks God, because I could have stayed the old Erica and
Mm,
stay shut in, stay to myself, not opened up, but being able to use even my own experiences to help somebody else is, I think, what life really is all about.
yeah. Yeah. And that's the reason why we're even doing these in the first place,
Yeah.
right? I think something that I've just come to a realization with more in my later life or in this stage of my life is everything that I'm doing, I'm purpose with all the gifts and talents that I have. When I start focusing them in the right direction,
Yeah.
right? Because a lot of times we recognize these things that God has given to us, and then we're selfish with them.
Yeah.
We have our own agenda, we have our own thing, but to understand like that, we're here with a purpose,
Yeah.
and people is the business that we're all in, whether
Yes.
we want to believe it or not.
Yeah.
It's people, it's other people,
Hmm.
and so the decisions that we make, the things that we share, the things that we overcome, um, are going to leave far more impact in this world than any one thing that we can do for ourselves.
Yeah, that's
So
good. That's
yeah.
good.
Yeah. All right. So thank you again for sitting down with me. No jokes today. No jokes today. Everything
I
good.
was I was surprised that we didn't go there, but it's
No,
good. I know
no,
we
we
gonna
straight.
laugh plenty of later,
Yeah,
always.
yeah, we
Good
good to
times.
go. We good to go. But I appreciate it, and I know that somebody definitely will feel something from this for sure.
Thank you for allowing me to be on the Nine Conversations. I'm so proud of you and all
Ah,
that you're doing. You've always had so many ideas, and just to see this come to light, even from what you started years ago,
mhm.
and how you've really now positioned it into what it needs to be is really cool. So I'm so proud of you. Love you.
Thank you. Love you too.